You know, there is this persistent myth in the digital nomad community that true freedom means total, uninhibited spontaneity.
Oh, yeah, you see it constantly on social media.
Right. The whole aesthetic of waking up with zero plans, throwing a laptop into a backpack, and just seeing where the day takes you in some bustling Southeast Asian metropolis.
Yeah, riding a motorbike through the streets, finding a random beach cafe, it looks incredible.
It does. It really does. But the reality of cross-border living often proves to be the exact opposite because everyone thinks they're Anthony Bourdain right up until until they eat the wrong piece of street-side pork at 2 in the morning.
Oh, man, yeah.
And suddenly you need to know how to navigate a foreign medical system while dealing with severe gastroenteritis.
Exactly, or worse. And that is the stark difference between being a tourist who is insulated by a temporary travel bubble and a long-term expat who actually has to integrate into the local infrastructure.
Right.
Because when you remove the safety net of your home country's healthcare system, spontaneity can very quickly become a massive liability.
And that is exactly the core premise of our deep dive today. We are looking through a really fascinating stack of background documentation and notes on a creator who has essentially built a masterclass in systematizing that exact kind of chaos.
It is a great collection of sources.
It is. Our mission today is to explore this highly practical survival tool. It's called the Southeast Asia Emergency and Essential Services Directory. But we aren't just looking at this as a product.
No, not at all.
We are looking at it as a framework for risk management for expats. And what makes this entire framework so fascinating, what makes it really worth studying, is the unexpected angle of the architect behind it, a man named Bradley W. Deacon.
Yeah, the background here is what elevates this from your standard travel blog post to a genuinely critical piece of intelligence.
Right, because usually these things are made by, I don't know, travel agencies.
Exactly. Travel agencies, lifestyle influencers, or marketing teams just trying to push affiliate links for travel insurance. But Bradley's background is entirely different.
Yeah.
He spent 15 years in the Australian Federal Police,
Wow.
serving in a variety of complex investigative roles, and he actually finished his law enforcement career deep inside a joint state and federal counterterrorism unit.
Which requires a completely different analytical skill set. I mean, when you are operating in a counterterrorism unit, your daily baseline involves synthesizing massive amounts of chaotic, fragmented intelligence.
Oh, absolutely.
You are looking for patterns, assessing asymmetrical threats, and trying to predict worst-case scenarios so you can build contingencies before a crisis actually triggers. It is an environment where the margin for error is essentially zero.
Precisely. And he wasn't just operating in those environments. He was actually institutionalizing that mindset for others.
Oh, right, the instructing.
Yeah, Bradley served as an instructor at police academies across Australia, Malaysia, and Fiji.
That's a wide reach.
It is. He was actively teaching law enforcement officers the mechanics of operational safety and advanced investigative techniques. So you have a psychological profile here of someone whose entire worldview is wired to map out assets, identify vulnerabilities, and construct fail-safes.
But the catalyst for him turning that specific skill set towards Southeast Asian healthcare is actually quite poignant.
Yeah, it really is.
After leaving law enforcement, Bradley relocated to Southeast Asia. And the specific motivation for the move was to manage and recover from PTSD,
Right.
which was a direct result of the intense, high-stakes nature of his long policing career.
It is a profound transition to consider. You have someone leaving a hypervigilant, threat-focused environment, actively seeking a phase of healing and recovery.
Yeah.
But anyone who has managed long-term health, particularly mental health and trauma recovery, understands that medical consistency is an absolute prerequisite for healing.
For sure.
You cannot establish a baseline of peace if you are constantly anxious about where to find reliable medical care.
And that's kind of the irony of seeking peace in a region famous for its logistical unpredictability. While he was focusing on his recovery, he confronted a reality that eventually hits every long-term expat.
The internet search problem.
Yes. The terrifying unreliability of public search engines during a crisis. I mean, picture yourself dealing with a sudden, severe medical issue in a foreign city. The algorithm on a standard search engine doesn't know if the clinic it is recommending actually meets international standards of care.
Right. Or if it just has a really good SEO marketing team.
Exactly. It doesn't know if the doctor on call speaks English or if the facility even stocks the specific trusted medication you need.
Because Relying on an internet search during an adrenaline-fueled emergency is essentially rolling the dice on your life.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Bradley recognized this critical vulnerability immediately, and he applied a classic intelligence gathering technique. When public intelligence is compromised or unreliable, you create your own localized dossier.
I love that.
He started systematically vetting and compiling a private list of hospitals, pharmacies, emergency contacts, and clinics that were definitively trusted by the established expat community.
He essentially mapped the medical assets of his environment the same way he would map operational assets for a security detail.
Exactly.
But as he integrated more deeply into the expat and digital nomad communities, he realized his private dossier was solving a universal anxiety. Every single traveler he spoke with harbored the exact same underlying dread.
The big fear.
Yeah. If I get hurt, where exactly do I go so I don't get price gouged? Which pharmacy is legitimately open in the middle of the night?
And recognizing that massive intelligence gap, he transitioned his personal notes into a public lifeline. He created the Southeast Asia Emergency and Essential Services Directory.
Which is such a brilliant leap.
And the architectural choice for this tool is actually brilliant in its simplicity, too. He intentionally bypassed the trend of building a bloated, heavy application.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right? Those apps eat up phone storage, they require constant software updates, and they always seem to crash when you have low bandwidth.
Really?
Instead, he structured it as a live, highly organized Google Sheet accessible via phone, tablet, or computer.
I do want to play devil's advocate here for a second, though.
Okay, go for it.
A live Google Sheet is fantastic for instant updates, but what happens if you are in the middle of nowhere? Let's say you are on a remote provincial road in northern Vietnam, you have a medical emergency, and you have absolutely zero 4G cell service. Does this directory account for the reality of offline access?
That is a critical question, and it highlights exactly why the Google Sheets format was chosen over a proprietary app.
Okay.
Google Sheets has native, highly stable offline caching. As long as you have opened the directory on your device while connected to Wi-Fi at your hotel or a cafe, the entire database remains accessible offline.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can still search the grid, find the nearest vetted clinic, and access the emergency protocols even if you are entirely off the grid. It is a built-in operational failsafe.
That makes perfect sense. Let's look at the sheer scope of the intelligence gathering here, because applying that level of scrutiny to a single city is incredibly difficult. Doing it across the fractured healthcare systems of multiple countries requires a completely different methodology. Just for you listening, to give you an idea, the directory covers 8 countries: Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines.
The disparity between those infrastructures is vast, which makes a unified directory so vital. You are dealing with the ultra-modern robotic surgery centers in a place like Singapore, contrasting sharply with the developing medical infrastructure in places like Laos or Cambodia.
Right.
In those developing nations, knowing exactly which specific international clinic has the capability to stabilize a severe trauma patient for a cross-border medical evacuation to Bangkok or Singapore is literally a matter of life and death.
And when you are in a situation that requires a medevac, your prefrontal cortex just shuts down.
Completely.
You are operating purely on panic. So the directory is formatted to bypass that panic. It provides the vetted hospitals and expat-approved pharmacies. But the most crucial feature is the integration of direct Google Maps links for every single location.
This is huge.
It is. Because in a crisis, trying to copy and paste a complex foreign address, potentially misspelling a tonal language character, and routing it yourself introduces massive friction. The embedded links mean a single tap instantly initiates navigation.
It is all about removing the cognitive load during a crisis. But the directory goes much deeper into operational safety with a dedicated section called the Quick Emergency Guide.
I wanted to ask about this.
Yeah, this isn't just a list of locations. It is a step-by-step tactical response protocol for accidents. And naturally, it heavily focuses on the statistical inevitability of scooter and motorbike collisions.
Right, because if you spend any significant time in Southeast Asia, the transition from corporate monotony to geographical independence usually involves renting a scooter.
It's the lifeblood of transportation out there.
Exactly. But the accident rates are tragically high, and navigating the immediate aftermath on a busy, unfamiliar street is incredibly dangerous.
The protocol in the guide is grounded in harsh realities. For example, it explicitly advises against the instinct to always wait for a local ambulance. Yes, in densely packed cities like Jakarta, Manila, or Ho Chi Minh City, traffic gridlock can completely paralyze emergency vehicles. The golden hour of trauma care is ticking away while an ambulance is stuck at a roundabout.
Oh, that makes sense.
So the guide advises that depending on the severity of the injury, utilizing Grab or a local taxi to immediately self-transport to a vetted emergency room is often significantly faster.
That is the exact kind of asymmetric thinking that only comes from someone who understands on-the-ground operational realities.
Exactly.
It also tackles the secondary crisis of an accident, the financial trauma. Surviving the physical impact is step one, but surviving the hospital bill without bankrupting yourself is step two. The guide provides highly specific instructions on how to handle the aftermath for travel insurance purposes.
Because insurance companies operate on strict bureaucratic requirements, and they will absolutely leverage missing documentation to deny a cross-border medical claim.
They really will.
The guide walks you through exactly what you need to secure before you leave the hospital. Police reports, specific itemized medical receipts, doctor's notes translated or certified correctly, because trying to acquire that documentation retroactively after you have flown home is nearly impossible.
So we have this incredible comprehensive system, but that brings up perhaps the most difficult challenge of all: information decay.
Oh, the region changes so fast.
The half-life of a business address or a phone number in Southeast Asia is incredibly short. This is why physical travel guidebooks are practically obsolete the moment they hit the printing press.
Yeah, a trusted, expat-approved pharmacy might get bought out by a conglomerate, rebrand, or simply shut down. A clinic might relocate across town.
If you rely on a well-meaning expat blog post from 2022, you might desperately arrive at an address bleeding from a severe laceration only to find a newly built coffee shop where the emergency clinic used to be.
That is a nightmare scenario. And managing that decay requires continuous intelligence gathering.
Bradley tackles this by treating the directory not as a static document, but as a living ecosystem.
Right.
The data is rigorously verified and updated on a quarterly schedule: January, April, July, and October. Every 3 months, the entire grid across all 8 countries is subjected to a comprehensive refresh. That is a staggering amount of logistical maintenance.
It is a massive undertaking, which explains the broader structure of where this directory is actually housed.
Yeah, let's talk about
It
that.
doesn't just float independently on a random website. It is anchored within an online community platform called School. For those unfamiliar, School is a platform designed to host communities alongside structured educational courses. Bradley's specific community is called Vietnam Live Better for Less.
Despite the name highlighting Vietnam, the community serves as a broader hub for expats navigating life across the entire Southeast Asian region.
Exactly.
And the architecture of this community reflects a genuine desire to build a foundation of knowledge for people adjusting to the region. The vast majority of the community is entirely free for early adopters.
He provides over 10 different free classrooms covering critical aspects of cross-border living. They dive into the psychological aspects of adjusting to life and culture shock in the region, which is a huge hurdle.
Oh, massive.
They cover digital nomad infrastructure, strategies for living well on a reduced income, health and lifestyle maintenance, and the mechanics of building a social safety net so you don't succumb to the deep isolation that often plagues long-term expats.
The free value is substantial. It is essentially a comprehensive onboarding program for the digital nomad lifestyle. However, the Emergency and Essential Services Directory itself is positioned as a premium asset within that ecosystem, requiring a once-only fee of $50.
Right.
Now, whenever the concept of a fee is introduced, there's often a reflex to hesitate, especially among travelers accustomed to finding free workarounds.
Yeah, but if we view this through the lens of risk management, that hesitation is entirely irrational. We need to evaluate the $50, not as the purchase price of a spreadsheet, but as the cost of outsourcing your medical intelligence gathering to a former federal investigator.
That puts it in perspective.
What is the financial and physical cost of a single critical failure? Getting price gouged at a predatory, unvetted clinic for thousands of dollars. Or worse, being transported to a facility incapable of handling a severe trauma, delaying life-saving care.
Exactly. You are investing $50 to completely remove the friction of panic decision-making. Furthermore, that single payment isn't a subscription. It is a one-time investment that directly funds the meticulous quarterly auditing process we discussed earlier.
It takes resources to keep data alive.
It does. It subsidizes the hundreds of hours required every 3 months to ensure that when you tap a Google Maps link in a moment of sheer terror, it routes you to a facility that actually exists and can save your life.
Is the epitome of high leverage spending. You are buying the operational fail-safes that allow you to navigate a chaotic environment with genuine confidence.
Which brings us to the core synthesis of all these notes and sources. The digital nomad dream of total freedom is absolutely attainable, but the definition of freedom needs to be reframed.
I agree completely.
True freedom doesn't come from ignoring risk. It comes from systematically mitigating it. When you have an investigator-level contingency plan in your pocket, when you know exactly how to handle the worst-case scenario, you are no longer operating from a baseline of subtle, persistent anxiety.
Right.
You are finally free to fully immerse yourself in the best-case scenarios.
Systematizing the chaos is what allows the spontaneity to safely exist in the first place. Now, before we conclude this deep dive, there is one final fascinating detail from Bradley's school community that we haven't touched on yet, and it perfectly encapsulates this entire philosophy.
I was hoping we would get to this because it is quite the pivot.
We have spent this entire discussion focused on his law enforcement background, counterterrorism, and navigating physical survival in developing nations. But if you look at the other premium classrooms he offers inside Vietnam, Live Better for Less, you will find courses on AI prompting for everyday life and business and creative projects using AI.
From counterterrorism intelligence to teaching artificial intelligence prompting, on the surface that sounds like a complete non sequitur.
It sounds totally disjointed until you look at the underlying mechanics of both disciplines. What is a counterterrorism investigator actually doing?
Right.
They are taking vast, unpredictable, chaotic data sets, identifying the hidden patterns, and engineering highly specific, structured frameworks to achieve a predictable, safe outcome.
Yeah.
Now, what is advanced AI prompting? It is the exact same process. You are taking a vast, unpredictable, chaotic neural network, and you are engineering highly specific, structured inputs to force it to yield a precise, desired output.
Wow. That is an incredibly profound parallel. Whether it is mapping the fractured healthcare systems of 8 different Southeast Asian countries to survive a medical emergency, or structuring prompts to navigate the wild frontier of artificial intelligence, the core skill is identical: systematizing the unknown.
It is a brilliant reminder that the hyper-analytical skills we forged to survive the intense, high-stress environments of our past don't just disappear when we seek a quieter life. They can be completely repurposed to design, build, and thrive in an entirely new future.
Systematizing chaos to engineer freedom. That is a phenomenal concept to leave you with today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Southeast Asia Emergency and Essential Services Directory and the truly fascinating analytical mind behind it. We hope this exploration has given you a new framework for approaching your own cross-border adventures with confidence and calculated preparation. Remember to stay curious, stay prepared, and keep exploring. We will catch you on the next one.